I want you to reach up and receive this as your word from the Lord. In October 2024, a convicted sex offender made shocking claims about Pastor T.D. Jakes on live television. G said Jake tried to kiss him in the 1980s and his lawyer demanded $6 million to keep quiet. Jake called it extortion and filed a lawsuit. Then things got worse. Weeks later, Jake collapsed during a sermon and nearly died from a massive heart attack. Doctors said stress from the scandal may have triggered it. Now he's stepping down from his $400 million empire. Was his collapse really just about his heart? Thomas Dexter Jakes was born on June 9, 1957 in South Charleston, West Virginia. It was a time when racial divides and economic struggles made life especially difficult for African American families. His father, Ernest Jakes Sr., ran a janitorial business and his mother, Audith, worked as an educator. Together they raised 3 children, with Thomas being the youngest. Money was often tight and opportunities for black families were limited. The neighborhood was still feeling the aftershocks of segregation, and discrimination was a daily reality. Growing up in this environment taught Thomas the value of hard work and perseverance. These lessons learned in a household where making ends meet was never easy later became part of the foundation of his ministry. He often looked back on those early days as the source of his empathy and resilience. Even as a child, Thomas felt drawn to preaching. He was known in school as the Bible boy, often pretending to deliver sermons to imaginary congregations in his backyard or bedroom. His determination was remarkable because he spoke with a pronounced lisp that made him a target of teasing. Many believed he would never be able to preach effectively, but Thomas refused to let their doubts define him. He practiced constantly, studying the preachers he admired and even using household objects as props. His passion was clear to everyone around him, and his persistence slowly turned a weakness into a strength that would carry him through his calling. At the age of 10, his world changed dramatically when his father was diagnosed with kidney failure. Medical care was limited and the illness placed an enormous emotional and financial strain on the family. Thomas and his mother became his father's primary caregivers, while Thomas also helped with chores and cared for his siblings. There were days when he had to miss school to handle responsibilities at home. Watching his father's health decline left a deep mark on him. He often remembered that time as the moment he truly learned the fragility of life and the importance of holding a family together. In 1973, when Thomas was only 16, his father passed away. The loss was devastating both emotionally and financially. Thomas had been working at the Union Carbide plant to help support his family, but after his father's death he had to find other ways to provide. He and his older brother worked odd jobs, often for little pay, while Thomas continued to pursue his passion for preaching. Standing before small local congregations, he tried to bring hope and faith even while carrying the heavy burden of being a provider at such a young age. The responsibility forced him to grow up quickly and gave him a sense of purpose that would define the rest of his life. In 1976, when he was 19, Thomas preached his first official sermon. It was a turning point that confirmed the calling he had felt since childhood. 3 years later, in 1979, he was ordained, a milestone that marked the beginning of his public ministry. He balanced his ministry with work, often speaking to small congregations in modest settings. These were humble beginnings, but they were filled with determination and faith. He had already faced poverty, the loss of his father, and the challenge of a speech impediment. Yet he refused to let any of it stop him. His personal life took a remarkable turn in 1981 when he met Sarita and Jameson in Beckley, West Virginia. She had been born on August 19, 1955 and was serving as the Director of Women's and Children's Affairs at her church. Her life had not been easy. She had endured the murder of her brother in front of his own children and had suffered through emotional and physical abuse in earlier relationships. Despite this painful past, Sarita was deeply moved by Thomas's passionate preaching when he visited her church. The connection between them was immediate. Described as smitten, Sarita knew she had met someone extraordinary. Their courtship lasted just 6 months before they married, beginning a partnership that would become central to one of the most influential ministries in America. Their marriage, however, was far from easy in the beginning. To support their young family, Sarita worked as a nighttime disc jockey at a Christian radio station, while Thomas focused on growing his ministry. Just 6 months after their wedding, they were involved in a terrible car accident that left Sarita with severe leg and foot injuries. Doctors doubted she would ever walk again, but Thomas cared for her tirelessly, helping her recover step by step. In time, she regained her ability to walk, and their bond grew even stronger. Sarita eventually became a leader in her own right, serving as executive director of women's ministries at the Potter's House and later becoming a published author. Their marriage has now lasted more than 4 decades, built on faith, commitment, and shared sacrifice. At just 23 years old in 1980, Thomas founded the Temple of Faith Church in Montgomery, West Virginia. The congregation started with only 10 members in a small storefront location. It was a daring move for a young preacher with limited resources, especially since many doubted he could succeed because of his speech impediment. The early days were filled with financial struggles. He and Sarita sometimes had to collect and return bottles to buy groceries. Yet the congregation grew, moving over the years to Smithers, South Charleston, and Cross Lanes before finally relocating to Dallas. There it became the Potter's House, a megachurch with more than